Hello, and our next session is from the lovely Helen Moon, CEO at EventWell. And it's important to note that obviously September is Event Wellbeing Month, so I'll pass over to Helen now.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Brilliant to be here. Thank you so much for attending this session. My name is Helen Moon. As Sarika introduced me, I'm the CEO and founder of EventWell. EventWell is the trailblazing and leading social enterprise for mental health and wellbeing in the events industry. So we have been campaigning and educating for better mental health and wellbeing across the industry since 2017, which was the first Event Wellbeing Week in September, which we've been partnering with Venues and Events Live since 2017 in terms of the mental health and wellbeing programme for Venues and Events Live. And it's a pleasure to be here for our 4th year of campaigning. September this month, we've turned the entire month into Event Wellbeing Month, just as a response to everything that we're experiencing and going through right now as an industry, which is obviously difficult for very many of us. But the one thing I wanted to talk about today was 2020. It was supposed to be the super year, so I'm just gonna move it on there. You probably can't. Can you see that on the first slide? The super year for people and planet. That's what we're saying. So basically, in terms of that, so like 2020, the super year. What is a super year? I suppose some of you are probably thinking. 2020 was supposed to kick off, and these were all conversations that were being held right the way through 2019, right up to global congresses and conferences that were being held in October, November and December of last year to kind of talk about the next 10 years of development when it came to environmental issues and people issues, so mental health, disabilities, inequalities. 2020 was supposed to kick off those 10 years of basically looking at the impact on the planet, nature and people of modern living. And there's no way, I would probably say, the times we find ourselves in now, there's no way really is there to kick off a super year about people and planet than with a global pandemic. But really kind of COVID-19 aside, one thing we do need to seriously start thinking about as an industry, and when we return to whatever we will be returning to, in events in whatever format they will return to. I'm trying to avoid saying the new normal because I think people are sick and tired of hearing that. But whatever our industry will return to and what events will look like, there is one consideration that we need to think about. And this is that the event industry is the 5th most polluting industry in the world. It is also the 5th most stressful industry in the world. Now that second statement in terms of the industry being the 5th most stressful, that's actually what kicked off the EventWell movement in 2017. My personal story comes from somebody who's been in the industry for 23 years. I started in the late 90s. I've worked in venue operations, event coordination, marketing, digital marketing, event marketing, proactive sales and development, account management. So I've worked in a variety of roles, and I've had, I would say, a pretty successful career and a pretty happy career. But on the flip side of that, I also manage bipolar disorder. I've had bipolar since I was 16. So it's safe to say I wasn't working in the industry at the time. So working in events didn't make me mentally ill, but it helps sometimes that I am. So joking aside though, I was misdiagnosed in terms of that bipolar condition that I managed. And I didn't actually find out that that's what I had until 2009. And that coincided with a huge career burnout that I experienced at that time. And then recognising, cut a long story short, recognising symptoms, I went to GP, recognised certain behaviours, listening to somebody else's story and got the help and stuff that I need. So my desire and passion since 2009 has always been to, and there's other people that we work with as well, and we have a team of people at EventWell, it's not just me. Our desire has always been led by a passion to make life probably just a little bit easier for some of us that work in the industry, because there's some people that naturally thrive. There are some people that find it very, very difficult with the current mentality of the industry and the way the mentality of the industry has been for a long time. I found it very difficult to be able to thrive and I've struggled. So there's been periods in my career where I've struggled. So EventWell was born out of my desire for us to try and make a difference for some people in our industry and for a lot of people in our industry. And then the statement, the event industry is the 5th most stressful, came out at the end of 2016. And that kind of kicked off this movement that we've seen since then in terms of open conversations in our industry. So those are the 2 things that I really wanted to talk to you about today. Okay. In September 2017, and this is covering Agenda 2030, so taking it back to that 10-year, and there's that 10-year, that decade, starting with the super year. In September 2017, world leaders agreed Agenda 2030. And this is an ambitious new agenda that's designed to end poverty, combat climate change, and fight injustice and inequality over the next 15 years. Now, Agenda 2030 was set in 2015. And what was happening at the end of 2019, people were deciding that not enough action was being seen in order for this movement to reach its promise of a better future for all, in order for the movement to have reached its promises by 2030. Drastic changes need to come in. I'm just going to show you a short video from the GEF. This is at the Global Environment Facilities meeting in Washington, which was in the back end of 2019 last year. And they've expressed the need for transformative change to the global economy in light of the multiple pressures from climate change, biodiversity loss, and pressures from the global food system. So we'll just take a look at this video. Now, cue video, please.
It's clear now, because science tells us so, that what we have been doing up to this date, there have been some improvements, but we are very far away from being able to protect the planet from ourselves.
Doesn't look like we have sound.
We have, in some ways, failed to achieve the goals that we had set for ourselves in the past decade.
Right.
So there's a lot riding on the post-2020 framework.
You may have heard this buzzword, the Super Year 2020. It's basically that the next year there are quite a number of important environmental the agreement needs to take place.
It means a lot to all of us in the environmental world, because it is a great opportunity to deliver on the 2030 agenda, on all the sustainable development goals. And it means that we have to get united, that we have to get together and work, not work in silos as we have been doing maybe, because we need to create synergies to deliver on all this without duplication, without interference, without competition even.
So what does post-2020 actually mean to me? I think it is more the political will, the results-oriented action which will be taken by everybody.
2020 is really important because it's an opportunity to bring the whole biodiversity agenda in particular, which our work links into the spotlight, and to start thinking about what's the ambition for the next 10 years.
Small incremental changes can be easy. Making larger incremental changes can be harder. But sometimes making completely transformative change, so not creeping your way up to it, but jumping right to the end, is sometimes easier than going in small steps.
2020 to 2030 is the last real chance we have to bend the curve and to really prevent certain trajectories from being locked in with disastrous consequences for sustainable development, for people, and for vulnerable countries everywhere.
We're also consumers, whether we buy some fish that's fished from the wild, or some timber that's taken from a natural forest, or a tea that has some wild plant material in it, or a lipstick that comes from a wild plant. What are we doing? Are we asking the questions? Are we asking the companies who sell things to us, where did this come from? Is it legal? Is it sustainable?
Also would like to bring into the scene indigenous communities and civil society, because their role also is super important in the attainment of our objectives.
We would like to see more definition of the role of NGOs and resources coming to civil societies because of the new challenges that drive us of the impacts on nature.
My message to governments and to all key players is to use a human rights-based approach to make sure that they recognize these communities, indigenous communities, local communities, whatever way you may use to call them.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, guys. Thanks for showing that for us. Now, the Agenda 2030 is built around the UN's global goals. So I'm kind of hoping that majority of people that are in the session have heard about the UN global goals. We're going to do some Q&A, so it'd be quite interesting to hear some thoughts for you guys that are attending, whether or not you have heard of these or not. And those 17 global goals are up on the screen for you at the moment, and we can send this out to people afterwards so you can have a look at it. But do kind of Google the UN global goals and have a look at it. You'll then know when people are talking about this over the next 10 years, and have actually been talking about the UN global goals since 2000 and let's see, 2000. Okay, these are 17 sustainable development goals. So they're the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. They were set in 2015 by the United Nations General Assembly, and they're intended to be achieved by the year 2030. So that's why we're talking about 2020 being the super year. So we're actually entering into that last 10 years, that last decade of us being able to achieve these sustainable goals. I'm going to show you another short video now, which covers the inclusion of disabilities in the goals. Now, these were included at the start of 2015 because the original global goals that were written didn't include disabilities. And this also includes the hidden disabilities that we don't see, and this is where mental health comes into play. So can we cue that video for that second video? Thanks, guys.
It's the year 2000, and the world needs help. I turned 5 last year, but millions of kids aren't making it to their 5th birthday. If they do make it, lots never go to school. So the grown-ups set some big goals to try to make the world a better place. In the next 15 years, they want to halve hunger, teach every child, and keep children under 5 alive. But people with disability aren't included in the goals.
It's 2015. I'm 20 years old. The world has shown what it's capable of when it comes together. Half as many people are living in extreme poverty. More children make it to their 5th birthday. And primary school enrolment is up to 90% worldwide. But not everyone has felt the progress. Right now, 1 billion people live with disability, all kinds of disabilities, including those you can't see, and the majority live in poor countries. So the world creates the global goals, and this time they include people with disability, where no matter where you are from or what your ability, you have equal opportunities to succeed. It's 2030 and the world is getting more equal every day. Extreme poverty is a thing of the past. Every boy and girl with disability is going to school. And people with disability enjoy their human rights and achieve their full potential. This is the kind of change that we can build in our lifetime. Let's continue to work together and create an inclusive world where everyone thrives. Will you help us build it?
Video from CBN based over obviously in Australia, but I thought it very nicely hit on the message about disabilities and how that's been included over that kind of 15 years from 2015, and how it's going to be a lot of focus in terms of the global goals over the next 10 years. And I'll go into it a little bit in a second. But basically, when we talk about hidden disabilities, we are mostly talking about mental health conditions, learning disabilities, some of the senses disabilities as well, such as hearing loss and sight. But what do mental and neurological disabilities look like? So mental health problems are one of the main causes of the overall disease burden worldwide. Mental health and behavioural problems, e.g. depression, anxiety, drug use, they're reported to be the primary drivers of disability worldwide and causing over 40 million years of disability in 20 to 29-year-olds. Now, mental health is a big problem for young people. If you're a young person, and remember that we're a young industry, we have a lot of young people working in our industry. If you're a young person, you are more susceptible to developing mental health conditions. I developed my bipolar when I was 16, sorry. So a little bit younger than that, but it generally tends to be in your late teens and your 20s that you will develop common mental health conditions. So it's important that we recognise that we all have mental health, and it's important to be looking after our mental health. Okay, major depression as well is thought to be the second leading cause of disability worldwide and a major contributor to the burden of suicide or death by suicide and also heart disease through stress. Okay. It's estimated that 1 in 6 people in the past week have experienced a common mental health problem or illness. Okay, particularly at the moment with everything that we're trying to cope with. 1 in 4 people in the world will be affected by mental or neurological disorders at some point in their lives. In the event industry, this is 1 in 3 every year. It's a serious issue for our industry. There are around 450 million people currently suffering from such conditions, and many are suffering in silence. Okay. The WHO has stated that depression alone will be the biggest and the #1 burden on public health by 2030. So you can see in terms of the global development goals why the next 10 years and those global goals by 20 and wanting to achieve those by 2030 is so important, particularly when the WHO is making statements such as that it will be the biggest burden on public health by 2030. You know, treatments are available, but nearly 2/3 of people with a known mental health disorder never seek help from a health professional. And that's mainly because of stigma. So stigma, discrimination, neglect, they all prevent care and treatment from reaching people and people reaching out for care and treatment. And this has never been truer than in the events industry. There is a huge stigma in our industry that's associated with the shame that surrounds mental ill health, and that shame has been created by our industry. The old rhetoric, which I'm actually pleased to say is changing, always has been, that if you can't handle the pressure of working in the events industry, then you need to find yourself a new career. We've had a very play hard, work hard mentality for a very, very long time. And that's come from leadership positions as well in terms of our industry. So these are things that all need to change. I do repeat though that this very old mentality and very wrong mentality, it is changing. It is changing. And EventWell has paved the way for open discussions with our campaigns and Event Wellbeing Week and Event Wellbeing Day and Event Wellbeing Month this month, like this one and like this event today, like Venues and Events Live, having open conversations around mental health and wellbeing. And it's very important that we continue to have those open conversations about mental health and wellbeing so that we can normalise mental health for people so that they reach out for the help and support that they need. By not having open conversations, we stigmatise people so that they don't reach out for the help and support that they need. We all have mental health, every single one of us. These conversations that we're having are not reserved for those who are struggling. Okay, mental health applies to every single one of us, and it's really important that we recognise that we all have that mental health, and we recognise that what we need to do as busy and pressured professionals to take better care of ourselves, because there are elements that are unique to our industry from a biological perspective, and a lot of this EventWell will teach in terms of what's happening in your body, what hormones are flowing through your body, cortisol, adrenaline, all of those kind of things that shape and shift how we are, how we perform and how we act on event day. So we do a lot of education around that. We'll teach people those signs and things to look after and the sort of things that they need to be doing additionally just to take better care of their health. Okay. And there you go, attitudes in the event industry, they are changing. They are starting to shift and change, which is good news. But 2020, what can we say about 2020? I can certainly say that when people were having the conversations about the super year and the decade up to 2030 and the global goals, they said I don't think they were expecting a global pandemic to kick off. Okay, and this year has been tough for many of us. very tough. There are many of us in this industry, we've lost work, jobs, businesses, and it's been heartbreaking to watch and see. I think in my 23 years as an event professional, working in an industry that I love and I'm incredibly passionate, it's very hard to put words to the emotions that I feel at times. So I myself have also struggled over the past 6-7 months in terms of what's happened and is what is continuing to happen. It's almost like, and this is the only kind of light-hearted analogy that I could put on this for you guys, it's almost like 2020 has said, hold my drink, disappeared to the loo, and we're all still stood there in the pub and the bar waiting for it to come back from the loo. That's the only light-hearted kind of analogy I could put, so I apologise, it's pretty rubbish. There is help and support available though, and this comes in many forms at EventWell. And we want people to feel that they can access this support. Okay, so we have the EventWell info line. It's our free phone number, 0800 470 0958. It's available for Monday to Friday, 9 in the morning until 10 at night. If you want advice, help, signposting, anything, or just someone to talk to, someone to chat to, we have event professionals on the end of the phone, so please pick up that phone. It's completely free, completely confidential, no stigma allowed at EventWell at all. We're there really just to lend an ear and listen, okay, and offer support on whatever professional help you need as well. We also have EventWell Pledge. This is our peer-to-peer point of need support program. And we provide through that peer-to-peer support program, there's business mentoring available, there's lived experience sharing available, so that's people talking about their own experiences of depression, own experience of redundancy, own experience of bankruptcy, but we also have financial support, so anybody who just needs some help for a couple of weeks with some grocery shops or help with a bill, anybody who's suddenly lost their jobs, been made redundant, and just would like a little bit of a boost, we can offer you money to get to a job interview. If you need to get a train to a job interview, it's expensive to travel by train to get around, so we can help you with that. We can help you with an outfit for a job interview, anything like that. So please, again, EventWell Pledge, the same way as a free phone is, it's completely confidential, completely free, no stigma. So if it's a safe space for people to come for help and support, and it's available to anyone who needs it. So it can be incredibly challenging asking for help, we get that completely, but the help is there and it's there for people to apply for and ask for. So again, remember, no stigma or shame is allowed at EventWell. We're there for you guys, to support you guys. Okay. So I did want to share this little quote with you as well, following on from that. Because one of the things we really want to address at EventWell and help and support and educate, we're not here to beat clubs around people's heads and blame anybody, because that's not beneficial to anybody at all. But we are here to challenge and try and make a difference to the stigma that is around in our industry at the moment that is preventing people from asking for help. And this is this statement I found. It's from the Director General at the WHO. We love the WHO at EventWell. They speak a lot of sense, shall we say, very sensible people over at the WHO. And it was this statement that I found from Dr. Gro Harlem Brundtland, Director General, and he basically says mental illness is not a personal failure. In fact, if there is failure, it's to be found in the way we have responded to people with mental and brain disorders. And that's very true, because historically, society's view it's changing, but society's view has been very different, and up until quite recently it's been very different. So, and this society's view is being changed by people who are speaking up very bravely and openly about their mental health struggles, the stigma they've experienced. There are lots of organisations worldwide that offer fantastic resources and information in terms of mental health. The WHO themselves are hoping that the 2030 agenda and its inclusion of mental health and disabilities is going to mark the beginning of a new public health era in the field of mental health. So it will look very, very different for future generations, or younger people like myself who are managing a mental health condition. So their experiences of that will look very, very different, because my personal experiences have been very different. But also by making those experiences very different, it removes the stigma, and we all start to recognise much better and have a clearer understanding much better that we all have mental health. Okay. So remember that those attitudes are changing for the better, and this includes our industry. It is changing. Talking about our mental health is a sign of strength, not weakness. It shows that you acknowledge that you're a human being that makes mistakes, and that is a huge show of strength, authenticity, realism. Admitting that we've faced adversity and overcome challenges, again, shows that you're human. And to show that you're human is authentic, real, sincere, and that you can be trusted. It's a place that we all should come from as human beings. Mental health, though, is very poorly resourced at present in terms of support. And then through the global goals, mental health is becoming part of country development plans and of bilateral and multilateral, development assistance. Okay. So in terms of that global goal for mental health, it is goal number 3. So mental health is included in there. Global goal number 3 is for health, and then the mental health, and that goal is to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. And then mental health is specifically in target 3.4. And target 3.4 basically says that by 2030, we're going to reduce by 1/3 premature mortality for non-communicable diseases through prevention and treatment, and promote mental health and well-being. So when we talk about the mortality rate here, we are referring to suicide rate as an indicator of this, and also associated heart disease. So there are big goals, but together, through better education, through better understanding, by working together as an industry to beat stigma, shame, discrimination, we can make a real difference, and we can make a real difference to people in our industry. And there has never been a more important time to be looking at this than right now, especially right now with everything that is going on, and with so many people struggling, experiencing anxiety, depression, even PTSD for the first time because of the global pandemic. This month marks Event Wellbeing Month, and this week marks 9 days of action. So we're coming to the end of Event Wellbeing Month, and this is where we're encouraging all event professionals to make a change when it comes to their mental health and wellbeing, and whatever that change may be. Just start looking at different ways that you can take better care of your mental health and wellbeing, and start to take it more seriously. Here are a few clues in EventWell's mental wealth video. So we're just going to show the video just in terms of some of the things you can be doing to take better care of yourself. Fabulous, thank you for that. I'm always tempted to start doing a little jig when that music comes on, so I was trying to keep as still as possible for you. It is, as I said, it's Event Wellbeing Month. We're in 9 days of action at the moment, and remember that it's that 2020 super year. So this is all about action. It's all about positive action. It's all about moving forward and starting to impact change now, guys. So that we achieve those goals by 2030. We don't want to be in a position where we have an industry where that 1 in 3 statistic gets any worse. We need to impact that to start making a difference and impacting on stigma and shame that exists in our industry. So if you are an employer, then please go to the EventWell website, eventwell.org, and check out the EventWell Manifesto. This sets out our commitments to mental health and wellbeing in the events industry, and we urge you as employers to come and sign and join us on that commitment. Also check out the EventWell Champion Programme. It's our aim to have an EventWell mental health and wellbeing champion in every event business by 2030, so that it is in line with those global goals. The first video mentioned the civil society commitment to the 2020 agenda. EventWell is a social enterprise and charitable organisation is a member of the civil society, so this is part of our commitment as well to those 2030 goals. Our Champions programme and our areas of outreach, so that's our education outreach and it's our support outreach, are all part of that commitment as well. And there's also Friends of EventWell. So Friends of EventWell is our membership programme. It's for professionals in the industry, it's for businesses in creative communications, experiential marketing, live and business events, hospitality, travel, exhibitions. It's not just specific to the events industry because we're all related and intrinsically linked to each other. So please do take a look at Friends of EventWell. It's available on a professional basis, but also on a business basis as well. And these are all proactive solutions. They're designed to support you with self-care, workplace well-being, positive culture, positive mental health for all event professionals. And that's it. Thanks for listening to me today. So has anybody got any questions? I think we've got 6 minutes left for questions, have we? Is Sarika coming back? There she is.
It's a really serious subject, as you know. I'm really passionate about this too, and we need to create better awareness within the industry in regards to mental health. We do have time for just a couple of questions, which I'll quickly run through. There was a question that said, I can imagine we are further behind on the agenda for 2030 now. What can we do as an industry to focus and be better? Which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, so unfortunately we are in a situation where due to the pandemic and due to lockdown, there are a lot more people experiencing mental health conditions, and a lot of people who work in the mental health space were warning of the mental health shock, as we refer to it, from lockdown. We need to ensure that from a government and country perspective that the mental health support is there and available to people when they need it. And that is being worked on, and organisations, particularly within the civil society, are lobbying for that support. So EventWell as well, actually at the start of lockdown, wrote to the government and to express concern over the lack of support for the events industry, not just from a lockdown perspective, but also from a mental health perspective, because we were already an industry that was struggling with mental health issues. So that work is being done. From a personal and business perspective, even small changes at the moment can make big differences, So from a individual perspective, if you're not somebody, and we all know what we should be doing to take care of our mental health. None of the stuff, and our health and overall well-being, none of the stuff that we talk about on these stages when we have these open conversations and we're talking about sleep and we're talking about diet and we're talking about exercise, none of this stuff is stuff we don't know. We all know or have a very good idea what we should be doing to take care of our mental health. If you don't know, then take the time to find out. EventWell have got loads of resources on our website that can provide information on all of the 3 pillars of health, as we call them, in terms of that provide that sound foundation for better mental health and overall well-being and health as well. So just look at some differences and things that you can start changing as an individual. Businesses, it's time for real action now for you to start looking at workplace well-being and how that your staff are supported in terms of their mental health and well-being. As well, from a business perspective, there's stuff that we talk about this stuff has actually been law for a very long time. So as part of the Health and Safety Executive, as part of that agenda, the overall well-being and providing safe working environments that support well-being has been part of health and safety law in the workplace since the 70s. In 2010, the Disability Act and the Equalities Act came into play, and that kind of said that people, and this is people with mental health disorders and conditions, are included in that Disability Act, that reasonable adjustments need to be made in the workplace to support mental health and well-being. And that still applies. So none of this stuff is nice to have. None of this stuff is benefits. We're not talking about cocktail making classes on a Friday afternoon. We're talking about real support, taking care of your work team, not knowingly putting them under unnecessary pressure, and making sure that they feel supported, valued, acknowledged. And this is the kind of businesses that we all want to be running, isn't it? And then as an industry, we need to move away from this old rhetoric that we had, that we're a work hard, play hard industry. We need to stop glorifying working long hours. We need to stop glorifying working on events back to back. I've done 3 events in a month kind of stuff. We need to stop glorifying it. It's not a sign of success. It's a sign that you may be pushing yourself and working too hard. We need to move past that, and we need to move away from those kind of statements. And that's 2 minutes left, and that's how we'll make impact, and that's how we'll make change. And there are lots of people in the industry that can offer advice and support. Stress Matters is someone we work very closely with. Balancing Edges, they're both our preferred trainers for mental health first aid training. So it's all about introducing proactive measures now into the industry and businesses.
Of course. Just quickly, we've had lots of comments on the video that you just played. Thought it was fantastic personally. Lots of people want to share it now within their organisations. Can we get them to drop you an email or contact you on their EventWell booth, and you'll send that to them directly?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you contact me on the booth or send an email to team@eventwell.org, we'll send you the link for that. It is also on our YouTube channel. So if you go to the EventWell YouTube channel, you'll find the video on there, and you can share it from there. But if anybody wants the kind of raw file, I can send that to anybody who would request it if they want to use it for their teams and for education.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Helen. It's been a great session. And as always, the EventWell booth is still up and running for tomorrow if you've got any questions and you want to speak to Helen or a member of the team.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for having me.